What is going on, my beautiful people? Welcome to yet again another episode of the Pivot Mindset Podcast. Man, I'm super excited to have you joining with us on yet again another episode. Man, we are making our way. We live and we desire to just use this podcast to be a blessing to so many people. We believe here that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful, and that the success that you want to accomplish, it's all relative. You got to define what success is to you. I know exactly what it is to me, though. And I know the description and the ingredients that's necessary for me to be successful requires that I always make the pivots, that I always look for the opportunity to make the shift, to make the adjustment, to course correct on my way to building the kind of life that I know I'm worthy of building. All right. And so, man, welcome to this episode. We are on our way to 50. Can y'all I don't know, man. I don't know if y'all joined this podcast at the beginning at 1, but man, we are on our way to episode 50. This is blowing my mind. I remember when I first started this podcast, I said, man, if I could just get 6 episodes. That was David Shan. So shout out to David Shan's of Sleepers for Suckers. And I took his course around podcasting and how to podcast and all the gear that you needed and all that stuff. And he said that the average podcast doesn't make it past 6 episodes. And so my goal was to just get 6 done, right? And he's like, yo, if your podcast gets past 6 episodes, you're in the top 1%. you're in the top percentile of podcast. And, man, I just decided to continue to show up for this thing. I just decided that this would be the thing that I would show up for every single week. I would show up for every single time I could. And, man, I don't think we've missed an episode. We have been rolling, man, and we're almost at 50. And so if you've listened to this podcast for the very first time, I ask you, please, after you listen, give this podcast a rating and review and just give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. We're not here just to take up space. We really want to provide value to people. I really want to help people in their journey. And my desire is that if this podcast helps one person on your commute to work, while you're in the shower, as you're doing dishes, as you're doing work around the house, as you're, doing whatever, as you're working out, that this is a job well done. And I'm just talking about one person, not even this episode, but the entire podcast, all 50 episodes that we're almost close to. Man, if all the 50 could just bless one, we're good to go. The purpose has been served. All right. So let's jump into it. So I want to talk today about fear. Fear. That's right. I want to talk today about fear. I gave a little pause there because I think fear is talked about quite often. I hear a lot of people talking about fear. And so I'm not necessarily looking to give you a fear story and a fear message of why you should stop being afraid of stuff, right? I'm not here to do that. And we could do that, right? I could do a lot of mindset work on fear and how fear doesn't serve you and how 80% of your fears aren't real and how fear isn't actually fear, it's actually anxiety. And we could go really deep into fear. But I don't want to do that. I actually just want to acknowledge your fears. I want to first start this episode by acknowledging the fears that you've got. That's right, all of them. All the fears you've got. You might be afraid of spiders. You might be afraid of loud noises. You might be afraid of birds. You might be afraid, whatever you're afraid of. Doesn't matter what it is. Clowns. You might be afraid to be a public speaker. You might be afraid of starting your own business. Whatever the thing is you're afraid of, I just want to acknowledge it. I just want to give you the container right now to just acknowledge all of your fears, okay? All of them. Let's acknowledge them. Let's put all of your fears out on the table. If you're in a space and you want to take the advanced route here, I would just write down all of the fears that you've got. If you really want to be, take extra step and really lean into this, is I would document all of your fears. What the heck are you afraid of? Right? Like what's really going on in that head of yours? What are you afraid of? Everybody's got them. I'm not running from or not acknowledging that everybody has fears. It's a part of the human experience. Your fears, by the way, are designed to protect you. And some people are being too protected, right? Some people are living a too protected life, meaning they're living such a mediocre life because they're afraid of everything, and their brain is stopping them from actually taking the action necessary to change their life, right? And so I just want to first acknowledge your fears. I want to acknowledge that everybody has fears. And I know if you're listening to this episode that you've got some real present fears going on in your head. And, but I also want to empower you. So I don't want to just acknowledge your fears for the sake of acknowledging your fears, but I also want to acknowledge your fears for the sake of empowering you to acknowledge that they're there, but not to allow them to stop you. I'll repeat that again. I want you to acknowledge that your fears are there, but to not let those fears stop you. I think of fears as like flies, right? Or like mosquitoes. Better yet, let's say mosquitoes, because I think mosquitoes are a little bit more pesky. You know, fears are like mosquitoes on a summer night. And what's more annoying, oh, this is a good analogy. Thank you, God. This is a good one. This is a good one. This is off the cuff, y'all. So, you know, fears are like the mosquito in a summer night, and they just fly around. And you can make the decision to actually intentionally fix your focus on all the mosquitoes that are buzzing and flying around you. You can be swatting at the mosquitoes. You know, you could be trying to smack the mosquitoes. You know, you could do all the protective measures, right? You could put the, and this is actually what I like to do, and this is actually what I think is more powerful is, you know, when you spray that bug repellent on, right? Like when you put the mosquito repellent on, think of the mosquito repellent as the fuel and the octane that you need to actually lean into and develop courage to have that fear but move anyway. And so just like in a summer night, right, you put on that mosquito repellent. But here's the thing about it. If you know anything about mosquitoes, the repellent don't always work. I have, you know, been outside, sprayed everything down. You know, my sister is notorious for this, man. She'll buy the candles, she'll buy the necklace, she'll buy the ankle bracelets. You know, we'll buy the wick things to put them in the ground and have the smoke going. We'll light a fire pit. We'll do all the things. We'll put the spray up. You know, we'll do all the things. They probably even got some mosquito glasses now these days. I don't know. They got mosquito everything, repellent everything. We'll do all these things and still get bit by mosquitoes. I'm talking to somebody already, and I ain't talking to nobody at the same time, right? And so what I'm saying is that fears are like the mosquitoes, and that you can have all the things necessary and lined up in your life to protect you from getting bit by them. You could have all the mindset stuff. You can listen to all of the sermons that you want to listen to. You could listen to all the podcasts. You could watch all the YouTube videos. You could read all the books. You could do all the journal writing. You could do all the meditation. You could do all the things, all the breath work, all the prayer you want to do in your life. But it does not stop fear from showing up at your door. And so what you've got to be okay with is that fears are like the mosquitoes, is that no matter what repellent you put on, those mosquitoes are going to find a way to hang out around you some way, somehow, some form or fashion. And so instead of always being so focused, you just got to acknowledge that, yo, they're mosquitoes. It's the summer. They're going to be out. I've got a life. And if I've got a life and if I'm a human being, fear is just going to be present. It's just a part of the human experience. And I've got to be okay to just know, just like I would with mosquitoes, I'm not going to let the mosquitoes stop me from going outside. I'm not going to let the mosquitoes stop me from hanging out with my family. I'm not going to let the mosquitoes stop me from doing what I want to do. I'm just going to know that, hey, I'm going to get bit by some, but they won't stop me. And the same thing is true with your fears. You may be getting bit by fear right now, and you're using the fear bite to stop you from taking action. What I'm here to encourage you in is that no longer can you let fear stop you from taking action. It's okay. You gonna fear, bruh. Like, listen, ain't nothing I can do. I wish there was some Jedi trick I could do to get you to not fear anymore. But fear is going to always come at your door, especially when you're doing what you know that you don't necessarily have the true power internally to do, but you're moving outside of your comfort zone. That's when fear is going to show up like a flood. And you've got to make the decision that no matter what, I'm not going to let this fear stop me from taking action, because if I stay here, I will die here. If I stay in this life, if I stay in this scenario, if I stay in this mediocre, and maybe you're not going to die a physical death, but best believe you will die an emotional and mental death. I see people walking dead all the time. No purpose, no gifting that's being used. They all got gifts, but it ain't being used. No passion, no desire, all of that just gone. And so, man, I don't want your fear to stop you. Acknowledge your fear, family. But we cannot any longer allow our fear to stop us. And so I'm bringing up this topic because last week I went to a conference, and it was a leadership conference, very powerful conference. And as I was sitting in the conference, I was praying, and the conference was affiliated with the church, and so part of it I was praying, and as I was praying, I felt the Lord calling me to do everything that I was afraid of. I was praying. I'm like, wait, is that you, Lord? Right? Sometimes God will drop something on you that you like, yo, listen, bro, like, you sure for me? You want me to do that? Right? But I just heard God say, Justin, do everything you're afraid of. Because I'm looking for the answers. Let me provide a little context for y'all. All right. I'm looking for answers. I'm in a space in my life that I am looking for answers. I'm in an area in my life that I need God to show up. I need God to do something miraculous in my life. I need God to give me clarity, direction, guidance, vision, wisdom for this season of life that I'm in. And so I'm praying, asking God, give me clarity, right? Give me wisdom. Give me discernment, Lord. Impute the power of God on my life, right? And God empowers me to do everything that I'm afraid of. And so what he empowered me to do, I'm going to share it with you because listen, I'm not just going to be out here doing everything I'm afraid of by myself. All right. No, but I'm playing. But no, seriously though, I want you to lean into everything that you're afraid of. And when I got that deposit, I was like, okay. And here's the thing. I knew immediately everything I needed to do because the fear was like mosquitoes. They were just swarming around. You don't really have to ask people what they're afraid of, and they don't have to think long and hard. Most people that you talk to, when you ask them what they're afraid of, blah, 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 it's top of mind. Why? Because they stay in it. But ask somebody, what do you see yourself in the next 10 years? It'll take them a couple minutes to regurgitate that, and they're going to kind of think of something out of thin air. When you ask someone, what if everything you did was wildly successful? What kind of life would you have? It's going to take them a couple minutes to figure that out because they don't stay there. They stay in the fear. I do it. It can be easy for me to stay in the fear. And so when I got that, I was like, okay, I clearly knew everything that I was afraid of, and I knew exactly the things that I needed to do. And I talked about in the last podcast how you should not be despising your small beginnings. So if you haven't checked out that episode, go check it out because I think it's a valuable, great episode. And a part of my fear was attached to starting things at a small level. And so there was things that I wanted to do, but I was afraid at them being small. There was programs that I wanted to put together. There were some really great things that I wanted to do, but I was afraid of the thing being small. And I wasn't just afraid of the thing being small for the sake of it being small. I'm not afraid of small stuff, right? That's not why. It's not that I've got this phobia of small, right? What I was really afraid of is the thing on the opposite side of small. I thought my brain was calculating that if something was small, that it didn't mean I had value personally, y'all. Like it for my brain was calculating that if I hosted a webinar and no one got on the webinar, or one person got on the webinar, that meant I was insignificant, and that I wasn't good, and that I wasn't important, and that I didn't have a message. That's the fear that was gripping me from starting things because they were small. And so what did I do? I went out and took action. I started something and did something that I was afraid of. And I'm going to tell you, family, that it actually was wildly successful. Like most things are. And when I say wildly successful, I do not mean that I had 1 million people on this webinar. I do not mean that I had 50 people on this webinar. I believe there were 16 people that joined this webinar. There were 35-ish people that registered, but it was about 16 people that actually joined and got on the webinar, got on the masterclass. And I taught those 16 people like I would teach 1,000 people that were paying me $1,000. I gave them all I had. I gave them all I had. If y'all were on the webinar, drop a comment somewhere and just let me know. But I gave everybody on that webinar all I had, and the results were remarkable. Had great, phenomenal testimonials. I still got people reaching out to me today like, man, I'm still unpacking all the stuff. I'm still taking action. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm getting great feedback from what actually happened. I got people signed up to have more conversations about potentially talking about, working together in the future. So in my estimation, it was wildly successful. Now watch this. On the opposite side of doing that, the webinar was from like 8 p.m. to 9:30. Got off the webinar about 9:30 and crashed, went to sleep. Woke up this morning. The first post that was posted this morning, my team posted, not the first post, but like the post my team posted this morning on my social media went viral. And let me preface this. When I say viral, it did 100,000 views. To you, that might not be viral, right? I know for some people, viral is like 100,000 or 1 million, right? It's 10 million. To my audience, to my size of audience, having a video that does 100 million views is absolutely viral to me. All right. And so I've got to be careful, because here's how it happens, y'all, is I almost didn't call the video viral. What I did is I was like, nah, I've got a friend, Brian, shout out to you. He's got a video that really, and you can already hear the fear coming out from me. He's got a video that also went viral, but his viral video did 1 million views, all right? And it's probably done 1 million a couple times. And so I'm like, man, my video was viral, but it wasn't that viral. See, like, I'm playing this out in real time so y'all could really hear, like, this is, I know this happens in your head too. I ain't the only crazy one, right? But this is how your fears try to stop you. They always are flying around. Your fears are always telling you that you're not enough, that they will never listen, that you're not good enough, that you could always do more. Like, your fears are always trying to sabotage every step of action or success or results that you're creating in your life. And if you allow them, your fears will kill you alive. You can't let your fears have that much power over you. Acknowledge them. They're there. We ain't going to ignore the fact that they're there. We're not going to be oblivious to the fact that they're present. But you do not have to let your fear grip you and stop you from taking action. And your fear doesn't have to push you into the space of looking for comparison and having your joy stolen because you can't do anything besides compare yourself to other people around you. It's time to dead all of that. And so the video did 100,000 views, and it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind, y'all. And I believe that happened as a part of my obedience by doing the webinar Thursday night. Had I not leaned into doing something that I was afraid of, I believe that what happened that next day wouldn't have happened. I believe something about God and his all infinite power and wisdom showed, hey, son, here is the reward when you do things afraid. If that's the word that he really deposited on inside of me and told me to do something afraid, that means that he also has a reward for me being obedient to his word. And the reward might not always be something tangible. It might not be it might not be every time I do something that God called me to do that I'm going to get 100,000 views on YouTube. That might not be the case. That might not be the case, right? And so fear is going to do its best every single day of the week to stop you from taking action and doing what you know you're capable of doing on the inside of you. Fear is going to stop you from trying to make the pivots that you need to make in your life. And so I want to challenge you to, if you want to take that next step in your life, here's the mic drop. If you want to take that next step in your life, the best thing that you can do is do everything that you're afraid of. The things that you're afraid of are often the things that are the ticket of entry. Let me say that again. The things that you're afraid of is often the entry ticket into the destiny that you've yet to attain. And if you can make the decision to do the things that you're afraid of, it gets you a ticket to the dance for the dream life that you have in mind. For me personally, that was one of the things on my list. I probably got 3 or 4 more things on that list that I gotta get done because I'm afraid of them. And I just believe that everything that I want is on the opposite side of my fear. And if it wasn't, I would have had it already. All right. And so listen, lean into your fear, y'all. They're present. Those fears aren't going anywhere. They're going to be around. It's like the mosquitoes. If it's nighttime, best believe there's probably some mosquitoes out. Just embrace it. It's a part of life. You're going to have them. They're not going to go anywhere. Doesn't matter what kind of work you do. Doesn't matter how much mindset work you do. They're still going to find a way to show up in your life. And when they show up, be like, I see you, but you ain't going to stop me. And so I'm pushing you, and I'm encouraging you, and I'm begging you, please find a way to do something that you're afraid of, and find a way to do all the things that you're afraid of. All right. So I've got for you in this episode. Thank you for listening. Remember, we here believe that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. Peace.